My envious sister-in-law announced her pregnancy during my baby shower without permission, but her husband, who had undergone a secret vasectomy, was outraged to find out he was being deceived. I'm Laura, a 27-year-old woman, happily married to my husband, Jose, who is 29. We've been married for 3 years after dating for 4. From the start, we both wanted to start a family when the time felt right. Jose's family is very close, and we've always had a good relationship, especially with his parents and his brother Andres, who is 34, and married to Isabel, 32. Andres and Isabel have been together for 6 years. Although their relationship is reasonable, Isabel has always been competitive. She likes to be the first in everything, the first to get married, the first to buy a house, and the first to have the perfect life, as she often says. 3 months ago, when Jose and I announced my pregnancy during a family dinner in Bogota, Isabel's reaction was anything but supportive. While everyone was hugging us and celebrating enthusiastically, she barely smiled and commented that some people have luck from the start and that young couples face fewer difficulties. I tried not to pay too much attention because I knew they had been trying to have children for a while. However, Isabel's attitude turned what should have been a moment of pure happiness into something extremely uncomfortable. The news of my pregnancy seemed to awaken something in her. From that moment on, every time we were together, she didn't miss an opportunity to make sarcastic remarks, reminding us that her marriage was older and that they would obviously have kids soon while insisting that she wasn't in a hurry, unlike others. One time, when Jose and I went to pick up some baby items his mother had bought for us, Jose's mother even mentioned that Isabel was constantly asking about the symptoms I was experiencing during my pregnancy and boasting that she would do everything differently if she were pregnant. I tried to be patient, as it saddened me to think about the struggles she faced, though I must admit, the situation became exhausting. The last weekend, on the day of the baby shower, which was one of the happiest moments of my life, my mother and my mother-in-law had been working hard for weeks to make the event perfect. They took care of every detail from the decorations to the food and games. They even rented a beautiful hall in Medellin, decorated with soft pastel colors, themed decorations, and floral arrangements in every corner. Friends and relatives arrived with genuine smiles and gifts in hand, which made me feel immense peace for the first time in months as I absorbed all the love and support. I was busy opening gifts when suddenly I noticed that Isabel positioned herself right in the middle of the room, as if she was waiting to be the center of attention. With a radiant smile, she announced that she was also expecting a baby. It wasn't a discreet announcement, it was a grand statement, as if this were her special day, demanding that all eyes turn to her. The timing was undoubtedly very calculated as she waited for the moment when the atmosphere had calmed during my gift opening, when everyone was focused on me and the baby. At that moment, I felt a drastic change in the energy of the room. Those who had previously looked at me with joy began to applaud and cheer for Isabel. For a brief moment, what should have been a celebration for my son turned into her party. I smiled and even congratulated her with a hug, but inside, I felt deeply uncomfortable. It was evident that she had kept that news a secret, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it. Part of me wished that at least this would make her feel better, and that we could share the joy of being pregnant together. But something didn't add up. I decided to push those thoughts aside and try to enjoy the day positively. Suddenly, Andres, who until then had been sitting discreetly in a corner, stood up and, looking directly at Isabel, exclaimed, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." The atmosphere froze. From his face, I could sense deep sorrow and anger, but I never imagined what would happen next. Without hesitation, he revealed loudly that he had undergone a vasectomy 3 years ago. He explained that he never wanted to have children and that Isabel already knew but had tricked him, hoping she would eventually give up her desire for motherhood. Andres was visibly shaken, hurt, and embarrassed, repeating that he couldn't believe what she had done. Silence took over the room as each person seemed to process the revelation in their own way. Isabel wore a look of horror as the truth settled in. I could feel the curious stares and whispers of those present, all trying to comprehend what was happening. Within moments, her expression shifted from pride to panic, and she ran out of the room. Tears on her face, quickly followed by her mother. Andres stood there, visibly devastated for a few moments before leaving as well. It was like witnessing a nightmare amid what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. The energy at the baby shower completely crumbled. Friends and family came over to try to comfort me, but no one knew exactly what to say. I remained standing, stunned, holding a half-open gift while visibly uncomfortable people began to leave. What started as a beautiful celebration transformed into a disaster. I felt hurt, embarrassed, and utterly confused. Only later that night did I understand the magnitude of what had happened the next day. The consequences hit hard. I began receiving offensive messages from Isabel blaming me for destroying her marriage. She claimed that if I hadn't gotten pregnant, she wouldn't have felt the pressure to resort to alternative methods, as she put it, to get pregnant. She even accused me of getting pregnant to take revenge, which made no sense since how could I know such details? It seemed like Isabel was rewriting the entire story to paint me as the villain. As if the messages weren't enough, some distant relatives started questioning me, asking if I somehow knew about Andres' vasectomy or if I had done something to provoke all this confusion. It was as if she wanted everyone to turn against me, and I didn't understand how far she was willing to go to manipulate the situation. Jose was deeply affected by all of this. He loves his sister but couldn't accept her behavior and felt torn between supporting me and dealing with the negative reactions from family. Jose's parents were equally shocked and saddened, trying to understand how their seemingly perfect daughter-in-law could commit such a dishonest and destructive act. They did their best to mediate, but it was clear that Isabel was losing control and refusing to take any responsibility for her actions. In that scenario, I felt completely trapped. Even my doctor advised me to watch my stress levels, emphasizing how this could affect the baby. But relaxing was impossible with Isabel dragging my name through the mud and generating so much tension among family. Blocking her on social media and my phone gave me momentary relief, though it was brief as she continued to communicate through other relatives. I felt overwhelmed, heartbroken, and unsure of where to turn. This period that should have been filled with joy turned into a whirlwind of confusion, and now I didn't know how to get out of this mess. Update 1. Since my last account, the repercussions have been intense. I sensed things were complicated, but I never thought they would become so chaotic. Yesterday, Andres filed for divorce from Isabel, reaching a breaking point. His announcement shocked everyone, but the worst came when the truth about Isabel's pregnancy was revealed. It turned out she had been having an affair with her personal trainer for 8 months. Isabel thought she could pass off the pregnancy as if the child were Andres, assuming he wouldn't notice since he didn't know about the vasectomy. But everything went horribly wrong. The personal trainer, as we found out, is married and has 3 small children. When everything became public, his wife, who had never been in contact with me, reached out to me via social media. Her message was entirely unexpected, but I could immediately sense her generosity. She apologized on my behalf for her husband's involvement in so much confusion, expressing how hurt and surprised she felt. She told me she was also going through her divorce, and we ended up having a long conversation, sharing our stories. In a way, it was comforting to talk to someone else impacted by all this chaos. Although we didn't know each other before, we both felt we didn't deserve to be caught in such a mess, but there we were, trying to comprehend it all. After Andres filed for divorce, the family completely divided. Some supported Andres, stating that Isabel's betrayal was unforgivable, especially for lying about something as serious as pregnancy. Surprisingly, other relatives began to defend Isabel, arguing that Andres' secret vasectomy had pushed her to act this way, since if he had been clear about his decision to not have kids, she wouldn't have felt so desperate. This created a lot of family tension, and honestly, I couldn't understand how they could take sides in something so complex and painful. Meanwhile, Jose has become my anchor. He has been incredible in protecting me from all this family mess and keeping the stress as low as possible. He made it clear to everyone that his priority right now is to ensure my safety and well-being, and that of our baby. Whenever any relative tries to pull me into discussions, Jose intervenes firmly to end it. It's such a relief to have him by my side, caring for us so affectionately, even though it's heartbreaking to see him suffer as he watches his own family crumble. As for Isabel, she didn't back down. She temporarily moved to my in-laws' house and tells anyone who will listen that my pregnancy announcement was the cause of her marriage's ruin. In her mind, if I hadn't gotten pregnant first, she wouldn't have felt the pressure to take desperate measures, as she says. It's incredibly frustrating because my pregnancy has nothing to do with the decisions she made or the secrets she kept. Yet, she insists on distorting facts to make me seem like the culprit. Even worse, Isabel has told her parents and some relatives of Jose that somehow I tried to overshadow her news, which is entirely far from reality. Jose's parents found themselves caught in the middle of the conflict and asked that all family members take some time to let Isabel process everything. My in-laws are deeply saddened and confused, and it's clear they are trying to support both Andres and Isabel since they have always considered themselves a close-knit, caring family. Seeing this division tear everyone's hearts apart is painful. I wish they wouldn't allow Isabel's distorted versions to affect their emotions so easily. To complicate things further, some of Jose's cousins have started acting strangely toward me. Some have subtly suggested that perhaps I should have waited a bit longer to have a baby, implying that my decision was somehow selfish or inconsiderate since I was unaware of what Isabel and Andres were going through. It's outrageous. I can't believe anyone expects me to organize my life based on another couple's problems. Jose had to intervene more than once to clarify that we knew nothing about Andres' vasectomy or Isabel's affair. We were simply living our lives, excited to start our family without any idea it would turn into chaos. Each new revelation seemed to worsen the situation. My doctor even warned me to manage my stress levels since this could affect the baby and suggested maintaining a peaceful environment, something almost impossible amidst all the commotion caused by Isabel. Jose and I have been spending more time alone, taking peaceful walks and planning the baby's room to try to lift our spirits. But no matter how hard we try to focus on our little family, Isabel insists on dragging us back into her drama. I also learned from my mother-in-law that Isabel's personal trainer was actually someone she met through a mutual friend, and that they would secretly meet at a nearby gym. It seems that Isabel confessed to some close friends that she felt the trainer understood her better than Andres. It's absolutely bizarre to imagine that she was leading a double life, dividing herself between the illusion of perfection with Andres and her escapades with the trainer. Isabel's behavior became even more erratic. She started calling my mother-in-law at unusual hours, crying and pleading for her to convince Andres to reconsider the divorce. Isabel seems to believe that if she can get everyone to understand that her affair was a mistake. Made under the pressure of seeing my pregnancy announcement, she will get the support she needs. She even went so far as to tell her parents that Andres' vasectomy was a betrayal, as if that somehow justified her decisions. It's exhausting to see how far she's willing to go to avoid taking responsibility. Right now, I feel completely lost. I want to focus my energy on my pregnancy and prepare for our baby's arrival, but the family drama looms overwhelmingly. Jose has been my pillar, but I see how much this situation weighs on him as he feels torn between supporting his sister and insisting that she has crossed serious lines. Family gatherings that used to be times of joy have turned into real battlegrounds where everyone walks on eggshells and whispers about who they support. I feel like I'm living in a soap opera that I never wanted to be part of. All I wanted was a joyful time, getting ready to welcome our baby. But instead, I find myself entangled in accusations, divided families, and the anguish of witnessing my in-laws suffering. I don't know how to move forward or avoid being dragged deeper into this confusion. It's absolutely overwhelming, and all I wish for is to pause this whirlwind and find some clarity. Update 2. Since the last update, the situation escalated surprisingly, and I confess that I'm at a loss to understand how all of this can be real. When I thought the family drama had reached its peak, the personal trainer suddenly burst into the story in a way that completely differed from what Isabel expected. A few days ago, the trainer sent a direct message to Jose via social media, basically blaming Isabel. He claimed that she lied to him for months, telling him she was already divorced and that Andres was just her ex. According to him, he had no idea she was still married during their affair, and understandably, he is furious for being dragged into this mess without his consent. This revelation caused a new rift in the family. Those who had previously given Isabel the benefit of the doubt, arguing that Andres' secret vasectomy had pushed her to act this way, suddenly began to see more clearly the depth of the lie. Their own attitudes, especially lying to the trainer about already being divorced, ceased to appear as an isolated mistake and were interpreted as part of a premeditated plan. The trainer's wife, Camila, also reached out to Jose, sending him several screenshots demonstrating that Isabel had been flirting with her husband long before my pregnancy announcement. Apparently, she started that flirty behavior shortly after signing up for training sessions, and those screenshots were shared among some relatives, completely altering the narrative. Isabel had told everyone that she felt pressured and desperate to have a baby because of my announcement, but the messages made it clear that she had been planning her actions long before. It became evident to everyone that this confusion wasn't caused by my pregnancy, but by the decisions Isabel made from the very beginning. Although it's painful to see the truth emerge this way, it has at least helped some relatives understand that none of this has to do with Jose and me. While this storm unfolded, Andres' lawyer contacted Jose and me, informing us that Isabel was attempting to use my pregnancy announcement as part of her defense in the divorce proceedings. She claimed that my announcement triggered an emotional collapse that led her to make those decisions. Her lawyer intended to use that argument to achieve a more favorable agreement, which is completely illogical. Our family lawyer assured us that this argument wouldn't hold up in court, but advised us to keep copies of all messages, social media posts, and any other records that Isabel had spread about us. Although it feels strange to have to document my pregnancy as if it were a standalone incident, we followed that advice. In a surprising twist, we discovered that the personal trainer isn't even the father of Isabel's baby. Andres, who had already distanced himself emotionally from all this, didn't even bother to ask who could be the father. But upon hearing what the trainer said, I was overwhelmed. Apparently, he demanded a paternity test right after finding out that Isabel was still married, and the result was negative. The explanation Isabel gave her parents was vague, claiming confusion and difficulty remembering when her pregnancy began. But according to the messages spread, most suspect that she may have been involved with more than one person. This situation created an extremely uncomfortable atmosphere, with family members now speculating about the possible identity of the father, while Isabel refuses to provide a clear answer. My mother-in-law is devastated, especially since she had already started picking out clothes and toys for the baby, convinced she would soon have a second grandchild. She tries to keep her composure, but it's impossible not to notice how shattered she is, especially after putting so much hope into Isabel's pregnancy. The situation took an even more surreal turn when Isabel decided to make an extensive and emotional social media post. In it, she told a sad story about how everyone had turned against her, claiming they were abandoning her just when she needed family support the most. She portrayed herself as the victim, asserting that she had made a mistake due to intense emotional pressure, especially after seeing my pregnancy announcement. According to her, she was going through a dark time and made poor decisions, but the reaction from her family was, in her view, unforgivable, even insinuating that she was being rejected by those who should care about her. The post generated a wave of reactions. Some friends and acquaintances offered words of encouragement like, "A real family doesn't abandon anyone," while others were more critical, accusing her of shifting the responsibility for her actions onto others. One comment went as far as to say, "Do you really blame someone else's pregnancy for being unfaithful to your husband? Grow up." The post turned into a battlefield of opinions, and it seemed the drama was spreading to every aspect of our lives. To complicate matters further, Isabel's post caught the attention of Camilla, the trainer's wife, who left a comment practically confirming all the facts and denouncing Isabel's lies. She exposed the initial falsehood Isabel told about being divorced and claimed that Isabel had even contacted the trainer's husband before my pregnancy announcement. That comment unleashed a new wave of reactions, and people gradually began to recognize the number of lies told. It was impossible to ignore how Isabel's credibility crumbled publicly through the comments. The family's efforts to manage this confusion have been painful to witness. My father-in-law has withdrawn completely, barely speaking, while my mother-in-law oscillates between anger and sadness. She had high hopes regarding Isabel's pregnancy, but everything fell apart. Despite trying to talk to Isabel several times to understand her version, each conversation only worsened things, as she insisted that no one understood the pressure she had experienced and that none of this would have happened if she hadn't felt so abandoned. No matter how much people try to explain that the situation is unrelated to my announcement, she refuses to accept that truth. Jose and I have made efforts to stay out of the drama, but it has been tough. Family gatherings have become tense and awkward, with everyone avoiding certain topics or speaking in hushed tones, always trying to align with one side. We even ended up missing a recent family dinner since Jose's parents couldn't assure us that Isabel wouldn't show up to create a scene. We are seriously considering staying away from family events until the baby is born, to reduce the stress. As for me, I feel completely exhausted, doing everything I can to protect my peace and concentrate my energy on what truly matters, even though it seems like the chaos has no end. Update 3. Hi everyone. It's been a while since I last updated because I opted to distance myself a bit from the situation to care for my mental health and well-being. The last few weeks have been like an emotional roller coaster, and Jose and I decided that the best thing for our little family was to step back from the turmoil and focus on what truly matters, preparing for our baby's arrival. First of all, I want to sincerely thank everyone who supported me with kind words and loving gestures during this difficult time. Many people have asked about my health, and I'm happy to report that I'm doing well. Distancing myself from the family drama has worked wonders to reduce my stress, and I feel much calmer now. One frequent question has been why Isabel was unaware of Andres' vasectomy. According to the version told by Jose's parents, Andres underwent the vasectomy secretly years ago without even mentioning it to Isabel. It's astonishing how a couple can make such an important decision without clear communication. Apparently, Andres didn't want children and hoped that in time, Isabel would abandon that idea. But instead of being transparent, he chose to avoid the topic by discreetly having the procedure done. When that information came to light, it was like Andres' secret had served as an excuse for Isabel to feel entitled to act so irresponsibly and make disastrous decisions. That lack of communication was undoubtedly a recipe for disaster, although it in no way justifies her actions. One episode I never imagined was my mother-in-law's change of stance. Until recently, she was deeply saddened but still willing to support Isabel during her pregnancy, believing that maternal love could somehow save some part of this confusion. However, she now informed us that while she would continue helping Isabel directly related to the pregnancy, she does not wish to maintain a personal connection beyond what is strictly necessary, as she feels her role is to care for her grandchild, offering at least the support that an innocent baby needs in entering such a turbulent environment. In the meantime, Isabel remains immersed in her own drama. Negotiations for the divorce with Andres are moving quickly. Based on the information I've gathered, Andres is determined to resolve everything as soon as possible because he wants to put this chapter behind him. He has instructed his lawyer to wrap up the proceedings without accepting certain demands that Isabel expected to dispute. On her part, Isabel insists on prolonging the situation and has even tried again to use my pregnancy announcement as an argument to justify her emotional collapse, a plan that Andres' lawyer immediately rejected as irrelevant. In a surprising twist, a mutual acquaintance contacted me to tell me that Isabel supposedly had reached out to other men around the same time she started her relationship with the personal trainer. This revelation strengthened the idea that Isabel's decisions weren't solely summarized by the desire to have a child, but also in seeking attention and validation without considering the consequences of her actions. Jose and I have had difficult conversations about how to face this in the future, and we have decided, at least for now, to avoid family gatherings where Isabel will be present. Furthermore, we've established clear boundaries with other relatives, making it clear that we will not discuss anything related to her or her situation anymore. We know this won't put an end to all the drama. Isabel and Andres still have a lot to resolve, but we have decided we won't allow it to interfere with our lives. We are focused on building a peaceful existence for our family and creating the calm atmosphere we desire for our baby. I sincerely appreciate all the support, advice, and kind words I've received. This space for venting and sharing has been crucial in helping me find some clarity amid all this chaos. It has shown me that setting boundaries isn't an act of selfishness, but a necessity to protect mental health and inner peace. I truly hope I won't need to make more updates and that we can soon return to normal life, focusing on the good things to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to not miss out on new stories.